Mm, That's
Oh,
why.
okay, yeah, okay, now that's better. You were tilted. You were
Yeah,
kind of
I was
horizontal.
trying to because I have these headphones. I mean, this mic that I almost never use, and I just thought it would help if everyone could hear me a little bit better. So I was trying to put it on, and you guys let me know if you can hear me.
Oh, I can hear you fine. I can
I ain't put it
definitely
on
hear
yet.
you fine. Oh,
Can you hear me still?
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
You wash your hands. I'm gonna put this on. Hold on 1 second.
That's why I stopped saying, oh, it starts at 7 o'clock. I stopped
I may
saying that
have
a
to
long
take
time
this
ago.
off because I can't.
Okay.
To
Righty.
component.
Mhm.
Hello? Mhm. Can
I,
everyone
I
hear me?
I can hear you. I can
No,
hear you.
this is not working. Hello?
Hi. Hi.
Yes, so sorry about that. I was just trying to make it so that I can get better volume control with these headphones, this mic, but it's not really working, so apologies. I'll just use the regular speaker.
Okay, because can definitely hear you.
Okay, great. All right, everybody.
Okay.
You let me know when you want me to get started.
Okay, I'll just introduce you right now. We'll just go right into it
Okay.
right now. And actually be really starting on time. Um, hello, good evening. This is Transformation Thursday, week 165. Thank you for joining. Tonight's topic is really exciting. Second session of 2024, and our topic this evening is holistic homeschooling with Miss Tiffany. Miss Tiffany, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am Tiffany. I am the creator of TheMagicInhUe, which is a brand that creates apparel that helps us all to connect back to ourselves. Um, I'm gonna ask you guys to bear with me because I wrote down a whole long thing that I want you guys to grasp each concept, because we're gonna talk about homeschooling and we're gonna connect about, some of the things that I use to get my 7-year-old to read at a high school level, to get my now 4-year-old, he's been four for just about a couple of days now, to read at 2 years old. He's doing multiplication and addition and subtraction and all of those wonderful things. So I'm going to share the methods that I use, but I want to start off by talking a little bit about how I arrived here. And then I want to talk to you guys. I love those kisses. Um, listen, mommy kisses can't wait. I mean, the kisses can't wait for the kids. Yeah. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about um, how I got started, where it came from. And then I will talk to you guys about, the mindset. That's where we have to get started, because everything about homeschooling is about the mindset. All of us think that we have to be teachers and we need some certification and we need this, that, and the other thing, but it's really about the mind frame that we adopt that allows us to connect to the understanding that we have absolutely everything we need in order to teach our kids, right? So I'm going to ask you to bear with me. I'm going to get started a little bit on my bio and some of my experiences. And any questions that you have, I'll certainly try to interject where I am and answer them. But if you are able to wait till the end, then that would be preferable. I also have a list that I would like to share with you guys of some channels that I utilize, as well as some applications that I utilize with my kids. So if anybody is interested in that, you can just email me at TheMagicInhUe, support at the magic, so magic just like the word, INHUE. So .com. So you can email me there, or you can find me on Instagram at TheMagicInhUe and send me a DM, and I would be more than happy to send over these lists to you. Which is something that I'm going to be adding to a course a little bit later on. And obviously that would cost something at some later point, but right now it's free for everyone. I'm very happy to share that. So I'll let you guys know that I used to work at the Board of Education. I worked there for several years, about 6. And among the many things that I am, I turned to homeschool because after working in a high school and realizing how it pretty much drains our children from their light, from them connecting to themselves, it was hard for me to watch. So I did not want that for my kids, and for a lot of other reasons where, you know, we work these jobs, you know, we are not able to really parent our kids because we're not actually with them on a day-to-day basis. In addition to the stuff that they feed them in the schools, a combination of all these things are the reasons why I homeschool. So right now I have 2 boys. One is 7, one is 4. And I've also been breastfeeding for the last 7 years of my life. I just completely finished that session of my life, and that was something that really contributed to my kids' brain development. And I always encourage all the moms that, if you know anyone that's pregnant, if you, you know, you guys are pregnant yourself, if there's ever an option, breastfeed your kids. Absolutely, 1000%. The brain development that breast milk aids with is completely unmatched. So I'll talk more about that later. But I've been navigating the entrepreneurial space as an advocate for home education, sovereign holistic living as a 9-year vegan, and a free birther. I came from a strong and typically resistant Guyanese Caribbean culture, and being born and raised in Brooklyn, it typically hasn't been the easiest journey to be that person that constantly chooses the unconventional way of living in order to bring forth the best version of myself and others around me. So the transitional periods in my life began as I ventured into veganism. 9 years ago, I began to evolve as a human being. It's sort of like it opened up a pathway for me, an awakening, if you will, in the way that my brain recognized and receives information. I'm gonna circle back to that in a bit, but I want to talk about my biggest transformation, the most transformative event in my life, and it enabled me an activation within me. This began in January 2019. I was kicked out of several medical practices and was denied my own right to bodily autonomy to give birth to my son naturally and vaginally in the facilities I went to. After experiencing an unplanned C-section in my first birth, which happened to be one of the most carefully orchestrated traumatic experiences by Western medicine's finest, That occurs multiple times every few minutes, every single day in the US to many women. So if you can imagine how it must feel to be rejected by all the practices that you go to as a pregnant woman in her third trimester, and just feeling like you don't have any real place to turn to. Um, and in that moment is when I decided that I would never allow any practice, person, idea to get in the way of me delivering my baby in the way that felt most natural, instinctive, and holistically aligned. And so I decided I was going to deliver my baby with or without anyone's assistance. And then I manifested a world of strength I never knew I had. I manifested an unassisted natural delivery in a pool in my living room after eventually acquiring a midwife in the 3-week home stretch. So that day, when I birthed my second son, who is now 4, I found myself. 2 people were birthed that day, and I was one of them. It was the most profound experience I should ever endure in my entire life. And it quite literally activated an entire shift of consciousness in me. Um, and that's because I didn't really know that I could do it. And despite what anyone else was telling me, I pushed forward to do what I instinctively knew what was best for my body and my baby. So I shared this to shed some light on something very important I learned. And that thing was that I could never prepare to know my own strength, know what I'm capable of. And that is until I persisted beyond my comfort and beyond what I thought I could be capable of. Um, the way that my brain functions best is in the preparedness, right, of any situation. But life doesn't really work that way. Um, most of your lessons will come from the mishaps that you couldn't quite prepare for. So during my birth, I had no clue that when birthing began, that I would somehow instinctively, without prior experience, know what to do. Just like an animal would during birth. All the animals that we see, they give birth, they don't go to a hospital, they don't get assistance most of the time from anyone else. Um, they just deliver their babies, and that's because their genetics will guide them to do so instinctively. So my body would connect to the coding within my genetics from all my ancestors past, from my own mama and my grandmamas before me, to equip me with the knowing of what to do. This is an important thing to remember when considering homeschooling, because we've been told we have to be educated as a teacher to be a teacher. But who the heck been teaching our kids everything they know up until now? And it's only been us parents, right? So you're perfectly capable to and cut out for this to teach your children. Now, this brings me back to food. So much of the way that we're able to connect to ourselves is based on our connections to food, nature, and our environment around us. The foods we eat can either give us life force, or it can feed us depressing thoughts, energy, and feels related to the life that was encompassed from the living creature we consumed. Because energy never dies, it is only transferred. So there's something truly special about the clarity that can be gained from decluttering our mind and spirit. We underestimate how much our food regulates each one of these things. And we have to think back to the way our ancestors grew their own food with their own hands, regenerating their soil. They put love back into it. Excuse me, it was sacred and spiritual. Intention went into every moment, and so love was transferred into the harvest. Um, do we know whose hands and how many of them have been in the preparation of our food? on a manufacturing level and at the places we buy food from, like restaurants and stuff, um, we have no control over who's handling our food and what energy comes with that. Do you know that water is programmed by sound, frequency, and imagery? We are over 80% water, our bodies. We're made up of 80% water, and so is our food from the ground. Most of it is water, which means it's perfectly programmable and will take the energy from around it that is created. Our ancestors picked their food from the trees when they were ripe, and that was as needed. Today, our food travels across the countries in multiple stops for different parts of the preparation weeks before it even gets to us. Um, However, within the first 3 days, produce loses 30% of its overall nutrient density. And we see it 3 weeks later on the shelves looking, so fresh, ready for us to buy it. And we have no clue that by the time we get to it, it's pretty much not even very nutritional. The nutritional value is not very high anymore. And so I speak to this to remind us to be intentional about what we eat, what we feed our family, and when you're monitoring your consumption, because it will be the difference between performing optimally and the best way to nurture developing minds. I want to advise everyone to listen to your body. If what you're eating is producing mucus, it's not for you. Um, I have a like sort of a test that I used to do with myself is one by one I would cancel like a food that I was eating, and I would cancel it for like 2 weeks or so, and even more if I could go for that. And like for example, eggs for 2 weeks. If you take it out of your diet, and then when you consume it again, if it brings you mucus production, if you're feeling it, because that developing that mucus will happen in just a few minutes, then you must know then that food is not for you, and then you have to make a decision to maybe not consume it anymore, because it's taking away from the way that your brain processes information. And that especially goes to for our kids, because they will be super sensitive to that. So I would always suggest you stay away from processed food as much as you can. 80% whole foods on a daily basis, fruits, veggies, legumes, however that is pronounced, and grains. No matter what, fruits are your bestie. So I would suggest you cancel white foods. Conventional salt and sugar is your enemy. I would suggest you use Celtic salt. We replace sugar with coconut sugar and or date sugar as alternatives. I would suggest you only use avocado oil and or coconut oil or olive oil. It's pretty good. And those are the ones that are easiest and most easily digested in our bodies. The rest of the seed oils kind of potentially create developing issues down the road. Yeah, everything else is out to get you, basically. So if it has additives, it's dead. If it has food dyes, cancel it. Drink 8 to 10 glasses of water a day, and be sure to supplement with some sea moss and some herbs to fill in the gaps. So now on to education. Here's the first motto that you need to adopt, and that is to unlearn everything. Right? You're going to unlearn everything that it is that you know. Your kids have no limitations. Okay, this is very important. Your kids have absolutely no limitations in regards to learning. Don't make any assumptions about what you think they can do, what they might understand, and what they might not, or comparing what is being done in schools versus what you're doing at home at any time. We're going to remove these ideas from our mind. Today, my 7-year-old reads at a high school level. He reads chapter books and has a goal of about 1,000 books this year. He does two-digit multiplication within his mind without pen and paper. He learned 300 something digits of the pi. If you guys know pi, what we learned in school, it's like 3.14. Well, he knows the rest of the 300 numbers. I do not. But it was something that he found interesting, and so he learned it. He knows the complete periodic table. He knows the body and its parts. He knows all the systems. He knows states, capitals, countries, continents, bodies of water, like 100 different major landmarks, and so much more. And he learned to read by himself when he was 1. And the reason that is because we began reading to him at a minimum of about 5 books per night, every day without fail, since he was 2 months old. So I understand that this conversation is not something like if you have kids that are going to school now, you obviously can't start reading to them from a baby. But if you are pregnant or you know someone that's having a baby soon, I would suggest always you start reading to them from birth. Like, it makes a world of a difference. So his interest was piqued, and by the time he was 1, he could read several books by himself without assistance, and that is because that was something that we focused on. For the most part, besides math, he basically, teaches himself. My now 4-year-old learned to read at about 2 years old, and we read to him at a probability of about 1/3 of the same rate. And that's simply because managing the new juggle became a newfound task. So it was not as easy. His brother was also independently reading as well. So that was that. Nonetheless, he swiftly picked up from the things he saw his brother doing and stopped at nothing and wanted to do the same things himself. So now at 4, he's just a couple days in just the last couple of days he turned 4. He reads at the rate of a 3rd grade level books by himself with light interference. He can also skip count many numbers up to 100, performing multiplication, addition, subtraction, and fractions, and is more emotionally aware of himself than many adults I actually know. And that's a fact. This leads me to the second most important realization, and that is that every individual thing you provide for your child will be absorbed. Everything within their environment becomes a learning experience. You can either be very intentional about what you allow your kids to access, or you can ignore all of this altogether and wonder later where they got certain behaviors, ideas, and information from, right? Remember that there is a warfare on our attention, our minds, our bodies, and our energy. And propaganda is at its all-time high in everything that engages with each one of our senses. And our kids will be most susceptible to that. I'll let you know that I don't really allow my kids to watch TV. When we do, it's about maybe like I will let them watch less than 2 hours of maybe Sesame Street or another show called Ada to a Scientist that's on Netflix. It's a STEM show. Radio is limited, and all 90% of their toys are educational, unless I didn't buy it, someone else did. And so, yeah, about 90% would be educational toys only. So they are, again, age 7 and 4, and all of their entertainment comes in the specific form of education. So because of the formats I use are enjoyable, it feels normal. It doesn't feel like we're depriving them of anything. So every family will have to decide what their objective is when they homeschool, because we each will want something entirely different for our kids. My goal in homeschooling was to nourish and cultivate my kids' specific interests. And my other goal was to teach them life skills that they may create a living to do whatever they love for themselves before they even leave their teenage years. And I want to enable them with the kind of established comfort in their abilities that they will never have to work for anyone. And they can also have several choices as to what they would choose. Um, so each of you would have to decide what your intended outcome is for your children so that you may build and manage your expectations. Um, my plan is to never put my kids in a school setting. No, like never. People often ask me like, when you want to put them? No, I'm not. I'm never going to do it because they will never be able to learn in the way that they can learn from home, and that creates a lot of sacrifices um, that unfortunately have to be made, and that's usually sometime around like maybe sometimes finances because I have to be at home with them, but that just means I have to get really creative about working from home, right? After working in one for several years, I realized how the system successfully drains the absolute life and magic right out of these kids. I meant working in high school. And it was so much so that most don't even have a clue who or what they want to be or going into leaving out of college. Um, and leaving whole grown people just lost, right? And I think that's really an issue if you're all of 30 years old and you struggle with knowing actually what your interests are and what you want to do in your life. So I cultivate specifically on my kids' interests now, which means we build a curriculum that is completely student led with my guidance. Now, there are multiple ways to homeschool. I didn't plan on sending my kids to what I feel are the indoctrination camps. So you'll have to consider if you want them to pass like high school equivalencies or just go like straight into college, because you can actually go to college before you pass your high school equivalency. You have to pass high school equivalency at a certain age. If you want them to get like some form of diploma, I think you can take that testing around 17 years old. But they can go to college well before that if they are prepared to do so. Um, or they can go straight into a trade. So because my kid, my 7-year-old, intends to be an engineer, it seems he may need to attend some college courses, because for most engineers, they require certain level of learning before they even want to work with you. So currently my 7-year-old is learning 3 languages: Spanish, Swahili, Mandarin, and Japanese lettering. We utilize an application called Duolingo to do that, which has a free program. We pay for it because the whole family uses it. And they have so many other additional components to Duolingo that we also use. So he's also learning engineering coursework and other subjects centered around STEM on a pay-per-year like course called Brilliant. Brilliant is another STEM program, and you're supposed to actually be 15 years old to use it, but it's like it gives you courses that you have to learn through, and it's something that he kind of just does by himself. I just am like, hey, did you do Brilliant today? And he'll do the certain amount of time, and they will award him based on how he is learning. And so they also have like boards where you can work your way up to like level at the top of the level and be the top learner. So it really incentivizes them to learn in the way that encourages them to just keep going, right? So we utilize this time to time, but oh, I wanted to say that we used to use a different program called Educational Website, and that's where we started. Educational Website is a website that is also partly free. They have so many worksheets, workbooks, that you can very easily print out for your child. And it goes from grades first to, actually, I think pre-K to 8th grade. So it is very helpful in that you don't have to worry about buying those books that you see on the internet for like work that you want them to do. You can very easily print them out from education.com. And they are very, very resourceful. They also have a part of their platform where they can play games that kind of reinforce the components that they're already learning through other sources. Yeah, so we encourage him to read every day. We encourage him to read at least for an hour. And the bulk of his learning comes from that. So whatever books he's choosing from his personal library, and more recently, we've been taking him to the library to borrow books instead of, me buying a billion books every time he's done, and not having a space to put it. But he's been reading like 20 chapter books in addition to other picture books every single week. And so when we go like on Saturdays or whatever day we decide to go. It's usually a Saturday, and he'll pick out all of these books. Hey, not for you. Stay upstairs. Don't get involved in my Zoom, please. Sorry. Yeah, so he'll get like 20 chapter books and he'll read them all before the 7 days has even arrived. Now we can rent 50 books, and I am so ecstatic because maybe now we don't have to go every week. But yeah, it really keeps him encouraged to like get these books. He'll knock a chapter book out like 300, 400 pages in like 3 hours. And that's the way I would want all kids to waste their time, not like waste time, but that's the way I want you to spend your time. I want for you to be encouraged and to read. Now, this is because he gets no other distractions, pretty much beyond his toys, that he'll be encouraged to get lost in his books and read for hours. Like, I'll have to tell him, come and eat your food, and threaten him because he's lost in his books. And then I'll have days where, there's nothing I could do to make him read. And, I just have to let him lead. And although it would make me very angry and I'll still try, I just have to go with the flow. For my 4-year-old, we utilize certain apps like interchangeably. We use education.com. We use because it has games. It has lots of games and like sing-song vibes that help him be reminded about certain the way that they learn, whatever they're learning. They are learning through sing-song stuff, and then the games will kind of reinforce it. We utilize Duolingo ABC. Now, Duolingo has Duolingo for language. They also have Duolingo ABC. Duolingo ABC was a vital component because it basically reads books to your child within the app. Not the books out there, but their own stories, and which each word that they are reading, it highlights the word, which really helps because if your child doesn't know how to read yet, using an application like that will help them to connect to what they are seeing and hearing. So at the same time, and it really helps to enforce in the same way, like, and sometimes even better than me reading the book to him because he can see each word as it's read. And then also he would have to manually turn the page, and it really helps to keep him engaged. So he uses Duolingo ABCs, which also helps him to like write his name. He can like hand write it, teaches him how to spell words and loads of things. And Duolingo ABC, I believe, is free. So it's the perfect perfect application to utilize with your kids that are not amazingly comfortable with reading. And even though Josiah reads at a high school level, he loves doing Duolingo ABC with his brother all the time because he gets wrapped up in the stories and that type of stuff. Another application that we use is called Endless Wordplay. Endless Wordplay is an app that um, animates the spelling of words, and then it uses them in a sentence, and then it explains the definition. So that's really fun. They actually have several YouTube videos with endless wordplay playing like back to back, and you can just see them replaying several words, and that's how I was able to find it. But that is very, very useful to help them to connect to how they see words and identifying them and helping them to read them, outside of books. And it's really fun and colorful and sometimes very funny. And it really helps them to be engaged with playing games, but also learning while doing so. And not just doing things that are not really going to feed them in the ways that they need to be fed. So we also use Duolingo Math. Now, Duolingo Math is an application that's supposed to be for like something like 10 or 12, but I just kind of pretty much put whatever age in there you think is going to work and let them, because it's levels to it. You start someplace and then you kind of just keep working through the levels. It's very easy for them to just do it and see what makes them comfortable. It starts out really easy and then obviously it will get harder. So my 4-year-old does that too. And even though from the beginning most of the things he would just get incorrect, he was able to remember, oh, well, this is the right answer. So now I know what to do next time. And with that, he was able to connect to what the right things were. It helped him to connect to fractions, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and all of that. And so my 7-year-old uses that as well. And yeah, these applications help to teach them in ways that, you don't have to sit with them one-on-one, which we also do, but you don't necessarily have to be the one to do that. And they don't require a huge amount of learning. If we just compare what 7-year-olds are doing right now in the education system, I just saw a video the other day and they were over there doing alphabet sounds. Like both of my kids knew their alphabet before they turned 1, and that may sound crazy to people because some 1-year-olds can't even speak all the way, but you can hear them recite it, and that's because we had these videos that they were watching, and we sang it to them, and we incorporated it into what they were doing on a daily basis. Right. So another application we use is called Khan Academy Kids. For our 4-year-old. Now it's a bit, well, my 7-year-old's too advanced for it, but they have a lot of singing songs. I mean, it's very helpful. It's colorful and it can help them to connect to lots of ideas. It's fun. I wouldn't say it has like really in-depth learning, but it does teach them many things. Excuse me. So yeah, that was also something that we used that was very helpful. Duolingo also now has a music app, which is so enjoyable because it's like a one-stop shop. Like, pay for it one time, the whole family gets to use it. You learn the language, you learn the language, we all learn language, and now you have music, Duolingo ABC, Duolingo Math, and language all in the same app. And I just think that's amazing. So now they can learn music, which helps because when you start homeschooling, if you're not the type of person that's ready to like leave your home to go someplace else to do something, this helps, which is me because I'm a non-driver and I live in New York. And unless someone's driving us someplace, I'm not going. I'm working on that. And I can hear Susan is in the background like, hey, you gotta get your license. Anyway. I'm gonna get that. That is this year's goal. But anyway, yeah, it really helps for them to be able to learn these different components on these applications. And yeah, the remainder of all my kids' learning is supplemented from carefully selected vetted YouTube channels and particular videos that I like select, and I put them in a notepad. I put the description and everything of what they are, and I let them watch that maybe 4 times a week. I have to limit their screen time because screen time is something that really can wreck the way that your child is able to be attentive. And I find that if they've had, you know, um 3 to 4 hours of screen time, even though they're doing educational work, now they don't want to read. You know, now they don't want to be connected to other forms of learning, and we can't do that. That's a no-no. So I try to limit that so much because the screen time is really, really bad for their developing brains. And so about 4 times a week, we let them watch those videos. And I have, like I said, I have that list that I'm more than happy to share with you guys. And that's where they learn how to do skip counting. Like I'm talking skip counting from 97, you know, to all the way to 1,000, 2,000, whatever, they can do that. So now when I ask, you know, my 7-year-old, hey, what's 32 times 22? He can tell me what it is because he's been able to connect to the numbers and see, okay, if I know what 32 times 20 would be, so all I gotta do is do 2 more and then add it. He is connected in that way to numbers, even more than I am able to do it. And that's just me being very honest, because I'm focusing on all these other things and I'm not doing this work that he's doing. But it is me preparing him in the ways that I would tell you that my school could not prepare me to do. You know, if I wanted to do double digit multiplication, most of us have to use pen and paper, right? But yeah, it helps. These YouTube videos and stuff helps them to connect to music in the images that they see, and that really helps to ingrain the information into their minds in better ways than just me telling them, in better ways than just them seeing it on a poster or in a book. So yeah, these videos, you know, they really help for memory building. And when somebody has a question, I'm absolutely available for a question.
Someone had a comment on Facebook that
Oh yeah.
she said she home educated all children from kindergarten through college prep 34 years ago, and all 5 went straight from home education into college
That's right.
seamlessly. They're all grown now with multiple degrees, and they now home educate the grandchildren.
Yes, you see
That's
that.
amazing.
And that's literally my goal for my kids. My goal is for them to go into college in like, you know, 12, you know. I also think about not wanting to put too much pressure on them and not wanting to take away from their childhood. But if they want to do it, why not learn all the stuff that they can learn now? And so that way they can live. Who doesn't want to know everything they needed to learn in regards to like making a living for themselves? And then at, you know, 23, you can travel the world because now you have your own business. You've been able to feel very comfortable in the way that you know how to do things to create your own living. And I think that's the best way that we know how to prepare our kids. And I'm telling you that even though my kids may have a wonderful pool of genetics, you know, I wholeheartedly believe that anybody can do this with their kids, you know, within the parameters of that child's genetics. They are very much worth homeschool is very much worth exploring for everyone if you can do it, you know, if you can sustain it with your lifestyle. Very much worth it. And there's so many of these little kids, all of those little kids that you guys hear about that are like, oh, you know, this 7-year-old just got their, you know, second degree, not 7, but I've heard about like 9 and 13 and 12 getting a master's degree and all of that stuff. Those kids were homeschooled. Okay. And when we really compare the way the things that the fast pace of what they can learn at home versus what they can learn at school, with all the other kids that have to be considered in the level that at which they learn, um, it's phenomenally different. And also, when you're teaching them at home, you're going to be focused on the trades. You're going to be focused on the subjects that are important to them, and not the fluff. Like, we've learned so much fluff in our lives that we can't even go back and access. We can't even go back and be able to be like, what do we use this for? In addition to the way that they're teaching history in a way that it is not actually valid, it's not true history that includes the lives of us, of melanated people, right? And the history that is actually real. um and they've done a very good job at hiding a lot of it, and making the narrative sound like one that supports the programming and the propaganda that they want to throw onto our kids. So it's very important that we look at homeschooling to navigate those issues within the system and the way that it works now. And those I would suggest anybody that's really interested in homeschooling to write down what your values are. And I think that you will very quickly come to find that homeschooling should be a priority that, those of us who can do, um should try to do it. Like, make the sacrifices that you need to do, because in the long run, your kids are going to be so much more well prepared for their lives in the long run than they would be if you send them even to some of the top schools. And that's the other thing. Like, it's so systematic in the way that they teach our kids, and the locations, and who has better this, and who actually has access to um um like certain programs when they go to school, because this specific school in this specific location was donated to. They have the money and the funds to teach the kids in the way that they deserve to learn, right? But systematically, right? And in the areas of people that are highly melanated, it's not always it's not always we don't always get those programs. um and it's not nearly the same. And so homeschooling, you can counteract all of that, and you can be specific to the ideas that your kids want to focus on, right? And the ideas that you want them to focus on. And you need nothing to jump right into college. Like, how would you feel your 15-year-old is now in college? Like, that alone is worth a little financial sacrifice. Yeah.
So, this same commenter, all of mine wanted college and entered around 15 and 16, and the last born traveled multiple countries solo at the age of 21.
Yes. Come on. And when you really think about it, that sounds like a privilege, right? Doesn't that sound like majority of us, we're growing up and we hear something like, oh, you were privileged. You were privileged. But it's something we can all access if we make the sacrifice and pour into our kids now. Um, and that's what's so important. Like, we can enable them to do all the stuff now so you can live later. We don't have to worry about retiring to go and now travel the world. You can do a whole heap of traveling, at the age of 23, because you already have a living for yourself. You already, excuse me, are making money. My child learns about money now. I buy him books, about money. I educate him about these things now to avoid him being stuck in. And the thing about these kids is that their minds are sponges. The brain doesn't even completely finish developing until I think 8 years old, I believe. And we have a very special time now while they're young to pour this information into them, because it's not cluttered with everything else. And it's so vital that we do that now. It's just so important. Can you imagine if 50% of the people that took their kids maybe out of the systems now and decided to homeschool their kids and really, pour into it? What would our world look like in the next, 15 to 20 years? The difference that our world would look like. And especially for, our people like, melanated people that have unfortunately been dealt the wrong hand, because of these systematic oppressions. So yeah, it really makes me happy, and I want to tell you guys, anybody that needs help navigating this space, I'm more than happy to assist in all the ways that I possibly can. Please send me an email. Again, my email is support at themagicinhue.com. Or please hit me up on Instagram at TheMagicInhUe, and that's HUE, right? And I also want to say that, getting into homeschooling is not a difficult task. If you live in New York, I don't know what the procedure would be for other states because I can only vouch for where I am. But in New York, all you have to do is submit a letter of intent. So you submit a letter of intent saying that you're a child, set name, date of birth, all of that will be homeschooling between this year. You do have to do it every year. And you will have to then follow up with a curriculum. Excuse me, throughout the 4 quarters, you will have to submit grades, which to me, I'm telling you, I don't even personally do it. My kid's dad does it because I just feel like this is my kids. Don't be asking me nothing. Don't ask me nothing about my kids. Why I gotta report to you? They're not at your house anyway, at your schools anymore. But you do have to submit a curriculum. That's once a year. And every 4th quarter, you do have to submit the grades and actually attendance too. So yeah, that's that. But once you do that, you're in the clear. So it's pretty straightforward, a little annoying to do those things, but we can all do this. We can absolutely all do this. It's not a difficult thing to do. And there's just so much information available. You do have to guide your kids, right? And you do have to be selective about what you are allowing them to absorb. But once you are doing that, you can be sure that they will be able to transform and be way ahead of all the other kids that are attending school right now, okay, in the respective grades that they should be in. So yeah, let me just look at my thing here to see if there was anything else I wanted to tell you guys.
So there's always a question that comes up. What about
Yeah,
socialization?
everybody always talks to me about socialization, and this is like one of the top number one concerns that everyone has. Now, socialization is the kind of thing that kids are going to learn regardless when they go places. When you're homeschooling, you can join co-ops. Co-ops is something that is the kind of a program where other people that are homeschooling can come together and do actual trips together. You can come connect and learn together. So that way they will have play dates with other kids and they will engage with other children and they won't be, just like at home all the time. That's not also something else I meant to say is that we implement like trips. Like, when we go to the library, that's considered like a little trip, when we go to the museum, it's a school trip, and also in New York, when you sign up for homeschooling and you say you take your kids to certain places, they will send you a Metro card for your kid because apparently even a 7-year-old needs to use a Metro card. I know that, but they do. Because when I was 7 and even when I was 10, I was going under the turnstile, but they do get free Metro cards. So that's great. That's about the only thing they send in you, but it helps. And so socialization is not as a big of a component when you're thinking about it, that you want to think about when you're thinking about how your child is learning. Socialization can happen at any time in their lives, right? And they can also always go play with, the neighbors that are around, their cousins. Not going to a school setting doesn't mean that they don't get to socialize with other people outside of those, designated like school hours, right? In my household, we don't have school hours. We just be learning all day. Hey, we got started at 3 o'clock today. We still learning up until 7. Whatever time it takes you to finish reading, whatever times it take you to, do brilliant, and whatever the applications are. One may not get done today, might not get done for 4 days because we have things going on, holidays, whatever else. But, we jump back on it. Socialization, if you really think about it, is not going to be the thing, right, that we should place focus on when we're considering how our kids learn. It's not going to be the thing that interrupts their learning processes. It just will be a dynamic that you would have to spend more extra care in teaching them how to be around other kids. So for me, my kids in particular, we don't do any co-ops or anything like that, and that's only because I said I don't drive. But we do go on trips and stuff like that, and they'll see their cousins here and there, wherever. I do have to spend more time telling them, hey, you have to share, or you can't have people come to your house and then you tell them to get out of your chair because you normally sit there. It'll be things like that. It is not a big, huge component. And when your kids get a little bit older, they will be very, they'll be able to make friends and go out on their own, right? If you have a 12-year-old and they have some friends, they can, have group trips and all of that. They can still live their full lives with the other people around them. Yeah, so socialization for me is not at all the component that I want to consider, even though it's the one that everyone questions the most, when I'm considering if I should homeschool, because it will never inhibit like the way that they learn and the way that they are able to be in the world. It's not really the homeschoolers that are the ones that are, maybe kidnapping people and doing other stuff. I'm just saying, right? But yes, you just want to incorporate lots of other activities outside of the home. And you can always do co-ops. There's also like courses that they can take with other kids, and then you can, bring them back home and do the rest of the homeschooling that you decide to do. And Facebook has a billion and one groups like that, where you can actually look up like Brooklyn co-ops, Queens co-ops, and even down to certain cities, so that you can do that. You can also find other homeschooling parents that you can connect with them, specifically, and do certain days where you guys all learn together. And that way they still get a little bit of those components of just like being able to interact with other kids in their life. So yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? Ooh, what's that? No? Okay. Well, yeah, so I mean, that is the gist of it. Homeschooling is not difficult. Once your child knows how to read, a lot of what they will be learning will be done on their own. I will tell you that I buy so many books. Like, I don't know what to do with the books at this point. And a lot of that is, the books are wonderful, but even that I have to counteract. Like, sometimes the books are going to give you a lot of the propaganda that you would receive just like they were in school. So you have to be like, I know the book says this, but this is what the truth actually looks like, right? And so a lot of it has to do with you actually going back and having these conversations with your parent, and I mean with your child as the parent. And that's what makes it so awesome, because this is exactly what parenting always was, right? We were supposed to be able to do that, not go to work all day, send our kids to somebody's um school system so that they can teach them what they want them to learn, and then indoctrinate them, unfortunately, right? And then and then we barely get to see them. Then on the weekend, when we need a little bit of time for ourselves, we barely have that, because now we should be spending time with our kids. And that used to happen to me. Like, by the time I would get home, it would be around 6 o'clock. My child was about 3, 2, and like, you gotta go to sleep. So now I get, what, 2 hours to feed you really quick and bathe you? Like, that's not what life is supposed to look like. It's not. And that's not what it's supposed to be if you have a child. So we can't be sending our kids to the daycare centers and these school systems so that they can pour into our kids. We should be able to pour into our kids. And that is essentially what homeschool gives back to you, that full control, um, or the ability to pour into your kids the way that all parents should. Um, and it's like having that sovereignty back. Um, and that's really important, because that changes the dynamic of the people that we're going to see in our world. Because so many more people have chose homeschooling, I'm guaranteeing that within the next 20 years, things are going to just drastically change, right? Because the kids are not going to get that same level, that same learning that they've been, giving all of our kids, making them all the same, right? And this next season of children, they are going to be change makers, and they're going to be able to lead with their own minds, with their own individuality, with the ability to think about something and say, no, I don't accept that, rather than, okay, well, the authority told me that it was right, and I don't think. We're going to have a nation of thinkers, critical thinkers, right? And that's the wonderful things that homeschooling allows, right? And teaching someone how to be a thinker is not even something that you have to teach. It just has to have the space to do so, where they can ask questions, where they can decide, well, those two informations are conflicting. Let me use my own discernment now to figure out which one is accurate and which one is more true, closer to the truth. So yeah, homeschooling is amazing. It pulls a lot out of you. You don't even, I mean, it can pull a lot out of you, because you might have to create balance as a parent to decide, all right, I'm only homeschooling you up until a certain hour, right? And then I need time for myself, because I still have to feed you guys, to take care of home. I have my own business to run, all of those things. But for the most part, yeah, you just have to establish those boundaries for yourself, and you might have to incorporate a little bit more structure, because when you're at home, you know, um, you don't necessarily have to start homeschooling at 8 o'clock in the morning when school starts. You, like I said, you can get started at 3, but then you would have to just incorporate some structure in teaching your kids that there is structure to life, and that may be one of the more difficult components. But yeah, as long as they're learning, all that structure stuff can come in the long run. It's really one of the lesser important things. So yeah, that is just about everything. Um, like I said, if anybody is interested in the information, like as far as like what the programs that I use, the apps, the websites, I'll be more than happy to email it to you. I can also send you the list of the YouTube channels that are great for kids of different age groups, right? And it also includes the subjects, like what these YouTube channels would be focused on. And yeah, this is something that I am also establishing because I'm going to create a course. Yes.
Okay, so we do have a comment here. The same person, because I home birthed all mine, they were never in any systems, and I never did a letter of intent all those years. And I
Wow.
am from New York City and lived in Jersey, Atlanta, Alabama, and Virginia. There's so
Wow.
much more available in resources and technology for homeschooling parents today than
Yes.
35 years ago.
Yes, that's true. That's very, very true. So they probably changed a few things and they probably require it now because I think maybe people were saying, oh yeah, we're homeschooling our kids, and then I guess people would disappear. But they have their own reasons and narratives why they want you to report in that way. And I think that involves like CPS and a whole nother subject of information. But yeah, so I mean now you have to do that. But yeah, that's also my goal, is to have my kids travel, because so much of learning comes from not just your environment, but having them exposed to different cultures, right? Different places. The way that we live here in New York is going to be entirely different that than people, live in another even state, but also other countries. And that is my absolute goal for them, is so that they can travel with me and we can live in different places and we can absolutely connect to different cultures, learn from them, and then so they can also see, hey, you are privileged, you are very privileged, you got 500 books. People, excuse me, don't even have access to libraries in some places, right? So you have to be able to humble yourself and know how privileged you are, that you have access to Amazon and whatever you want gets shipped to you in 2 days, right? So that's a very important part of their learning process that will be that I'm going to be sure to implement. I plan to take them many places, and we always talk about, hey, where are we going? Where are we going to go this year? And how, and we can connect to other students, right? Other students that live in other countries. We can have pen pals, right? We can ask them about their culture, and they can guide us when we get over where we are. And yeah, that's what makes learning fun and life worth living. You get to live, not just like go to work and be just like, oh my God, I am drained, I am tired, I don't have room for anything else. And anyone else for that matter, because the job is taking everything away from you, and the school is taking everything away from, our kids. So yeah. I hope that this has been truly valuable for the people that are going to watch, that have watched. I think everybody for being there here. This is always something that holds dear to me. Because it's the difference between me knowing that, hey, if they just knew that there are so many resources and that anyone can do this, it can be done. It can very easily be done. So, it's something that I always tell people, please try homeschooling. And it kind of is something that people are like thinking about all the things they're going to lose, but you should start thinking about all the things you're going to gain, right? Your child is in college at 15. Come on, they're going to be finished before they're 20. Talk to me about those kind of benefits. Like, talk to me about your child having a full-blown degree, or several, right? And actually knowing and loving and enjoying what they're going to be doing. Or even deciding, you know what, mom, I used to want to be this and now I changed my mind. And this is before they have to pay for an apartment, right? This is before they have to decide, oh my God, where am I going to get $3,000 worth of rent money? I just graduated school and I have a load of, um, what's the thing called? The with Sally Mae, right? Um, and we don't want kids to have those kind of worries. We want them to be prepared by the time they literally turn 18, 20, or whatever, to be like, actually, now do feel like I can go because I make my own money and I have a good sense of this world. I have a good sense of what's going on around me in ways that I would never been able to learn in these school systems because it's not designed that way. And I just want to remind you guys right before, we close out that, the people that design these systems is the educational system. They said, what's the gentleman's name? I can't remember his name, but it escapes me right now. But he said he wants a nation of workers. He doesn't want a nation of thinkers. So they never designed the educational system to teach your kids and for them to thrive. It was always designed to create a pathway to their other systems, which is like, the jail system directly on over. And it's very important that we make those connections. And the other thing that I didn't get to talk about was value, because we often value these papers that they give us and think that they hold more weight, and we assimilate in the world in that way, and we place so much value on them. But the reality is they don't even teach us, they don't really even teach us about, like, for example, a lot of the people that are going to school to be a doctor, do they even really know about the human body? Or do they really know how to use the big machines and they learn about pharmaceuticals? Do they know how the body really works? Do they know how the body relates to food and what actually causes disease? There's a lot of different spectrums, right, that our school systems don't teach us. And so we have to take away from those values that we place on these little papers that say we know how to do things, right? Because a lot of the people that even went to school, they cheated their whole way through. Not a lot, but there are people that cheated their whole way through school. They still know nothing. And so they have this little piece of paper and they get to say, oh, well, I'm this and that. And we get to give them status. And they're still complete, ignoramuses. Um, sorry, but that is the truth. And we know that by looking at our politics right now. Yeah, so we want to teach our kids and we want them to actually learn things, and we want them to do it now so that they can actually live. And that for me is more valuable than anything else that I can give to them. I don't want to work hard all of my life and be like, oh God, I gotta provide, make sure they have. No, I want to also prepare them in the ways that they can provide for themselves, and that's what homeschooling does. All right, so I thank you all once again. If anybody has any questions, you know where to reach me, The Magic in Hue. On Instagram, support at TheMagicInhUe.com. That's my email address.
And what services can you provide for people now?
So I am very happy because I'm building out my course work. I'm building out the courses where I am going to be saying all that I'm saying to you right now in even more detail on video, and then I will be monetizing on that. However, right now, I'm very willing to just give the resources away for free to whoever needs them, simply because I like to give to my community. And yeah, I will only ask that people are like, hey, when the time comes, then I can call on you for your honest review. You can honestly say, hey, this is how much this helped me. And that's more valuable to me because most times people need to know that you know how to do what they're telling you, right? They need to see the results of the things that they're saying. So yeah, right now, I'm happy to just help anyone, just speak from the kindness of my heart and provide the resources that I have. And yeah, within the next couple of months, that is going to be built out and will be monetized. So get it while you can, girl and guys. Okay, get it now. Because yeah, once I create that course, yeah, it will just be monetized. So yeah, just send me a message, and whatever it is that you need help with, if I can help, I will help. I also have connection to, like I said, because I used to work for the Board of Education. So I still have my connections in the Board of Education, and knowing how to, get around certain things. And I also have connections to people that have decided that they don't have any other option but to leave their kids in school, because, like I said, I have some connections. So, bring your queries and we will navigate them. And that's that.
Okay, thank you very much. I truly, truly appreciate you sharing, and I know that your information was very helpful to people. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can you tell me again your Instagram and are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook, but I generally don't go on there. I do have a page, and just whatever is on my Instagram goes on Facebook. So the name will be the same, which is my brand, and it is The Magic. So Magic, MAGICIN, like in, and then Hue, HUE. And the apparel that I create is stuff like this, what I wore today, my sweatsuit, which is called Not Bubblegum, and it has a child um, taking from what looks like a bubblegum, dispenser. But what they're taking from it are words that affirm them and encourage them, words like courage and bravery and sensitivity, knowledge, confidence, integrity, strength, um, belief, empathy. And these are things that I wanted to pour into my kids when I was having them. And this patchwork just reminds us to some of the things that we want to incorporate, like for our kids. Instead of pouring into them candy, we want to pour these things into them. So it says gratitude, it says perpetual persistence and relentless reflection, compassion, integrity, discipline, respect, humility, and empathy. That's what this patchwork says. So I create stuff like that because I also very much believe that in order for us to have beliefs, we have to be intentional about what we're wearing, and whatever is around us we will absorb. So if you're wearing these things, this will also encourage this in others and within yourself and within your kids. So yeah, that's also part of my brand.
Okay, I want to thank you. This was wonderful. Definitely
Yeah.
gotta thank Susan for the connection.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank
that's
you for having me. This is
oh,
always something that I enjoy doing, so I'm glad that I connect with everyone. Please do also send me the recording so I can share with whomever may have missed it or wanted to see it. And yeah, this was great. Thank you all.
you can just well, you can message me on Instagram your
Yeah, of course.
email address and I'll be able to send it to you.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna give my commercial, just a reminder,
Yeah.
next Saturday, January 20th in Teaneck, New Jersey is the numeral. I'm sorry. Okay,
I
let
didn't
me
hear
try
you.
it again.
Mhm.
Next Saturday in Teaneck, New Jersey at Rockville Lodge is the Numerology and Energy Forecast event with Lloyd Strayhorn. So we're definitely recommending that people register so that they can schedule a time to have their mini numerology session with Mr. Strayhorn.
Yes.
Yes, and
I'm
that
signing
information.
up too.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
You guys know today is 111, and
Yes.
portals are opening, so you
Mhm,
please make sure you go and meditate and do what you have
mhm,
to do
mhm.
to
Yes, a
manifest.
whole other discussion. And
Yes. Yes.
so, yes, so this is Transformation Thursday, and I want to thank everyone who's tuning in, and people will be watching the replay also.
Yes.
So I definitely want to thank everyone for watching. Transformation Thursday happens every Thursday, I don't know, between 7 and 8. Just
And
keep
one of those times you're gonna get
yeah,
us.
yeah. Just keep watching my Instagram and Facebook. I'll be on eventually. And if
Mhm.
interested in a particular topic or is interested in being a speaker, please reach out to me. I'm always excited to be able to share people, with an audience. So, Miss
Yes.
Tiffany, thank you so very much.
Thank
The
you. Thank you. I
it's
enjoyed it.
yes, yes, yes. So, it's on Instagram, but I'll send you the recording once it's processed with
Yes,
Zoom.
absolutely.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for
Have a
tuning in.
wonderful evening. Peace,
Yeah.
everyone, and take
And
care.
like I always like to close by saying, if no one has told you, remember that you are a spark of the divine.
You better know it. It's true. We all magical. That is essentially my business name. The magic in you. It's
Right,
there.
right. Okay,
All right.
everyone.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay, good
Bye.
night. Good night.